Hello, my name is Bridget Sullivan. I'm the coordinator for Disability Support Services at Cambridge College. Today we're going to go over a presentation for faculty that was presented a couple of weeks ago. I'm recording it now and going to be posting it online for any faculty who would like to rewatch pieces of the presentation or who were unable to make it. So just a brief overview of today's presentation. I'm actually breaking up the original presentation into shorter videos. That way anybody can choose to watch only certain pieces or focus on certain portions of the presentation that they found most interesting or relevant. This first portion of the presentation will focus on the pre-assessment, the learning outcomes of the presentation in its entirety, and the faculty survey data and results. The pre-assessment you can find at the link on the slide presentation here. It's just a basic, I think there's about 12 questions regarding kind of your current knowledge about disabilities, disability supports, and working with students with disabilities. So if you could go ahead and fill that out, I would greatly appreciate it. It'll kind of help me gauge whether or not this presentation is effective and help me to make changes for the future so that I can have a better and more effective presentation. So the learning outcomes for this are really focused on the areas that I want faculty to kind of hone in on. Being able to identify the contact person for questions surrounding disability support and accommodations. Identifying different types of disabilities. A lot of times we think of physical disabilities, but often leave out intellectual, mental health, chronic illness, things of that nature. Understanding the importance of the interactive process when determining accommodations. Identifying the main difference between a service animal and an emotional support animal. Identifying 3 types of students that can especially benefit from universal design, and being able to note 3 kind of key ideas of universal design and what that really means. So the survey results are based off of a survey that was sent out to faculty at the end of last semester, so that would be December 2017. It was also sent to students and staff members. Each survey differed slightly based off of who the respondents were. And 20% of faculty who responded indicated that they'd had an uncomfortable experience with a student with a disability, whether that be not expecting the student in the class, and maybe the student had a significant mobility impairment, not being prepared to implement accommodations, or perhaps being unfamiliar with a student's particular disability. Another 10% of faculty who responded indicated that they were unsure of how to provide a requested accommodation. And then an additional 17% of those of you who took the survey didn't respond to that question. I'm certainly not calling anybody out who didn't respond, but I do think it's important to note that almost 20% of people chose not to answer this particular question, which kind of leads us to believe that perhaps there are more than kind of just 10% of people who were unsure of how to provide certain accommodations. And that to me just indicates that there's a need for further information and education. This will make the process much smoother and more comfortable for everybody involved, and ensure that everyone's really on the same page. If you didn't take the survey and would like to provide feedback, I included the link here at the bottom of the slide. Please feel free to do that. It is still open, and I'm happy to accept any and all feedback that you all would like to provide. I wanted to go over some common themes of suggestions from the faculty survey. Some things that you all suggested included a 1-page information sheet for faculty, outreach and training, classroom visibility and presentations, training for regional centers, educating new faculty, onboarding, best practices, suggestions, and earlier notification of professors. And I wanted to really just take a couple minutes to explain to you all the different plans in place to address some of those suggestions. An info sheet has been created. It was distributed during the initial presentation of this PowerPoint and has been emailed to faculty as well. It is also posted on the Disability Support website under Faculty Resources, or I think it's called a Staff Corner. Training for faculty is for this presentation, and then we'll also be presenting again in April. I've been doing presentations at orientations, registration nights, and in some of the LRN principles and processes of adult learners classes. This will kind of increase the classroom visibility and make sure that students know what supports are available to them. In terms of regional centers, I visited Springfield and Lawrence both last semester and this semester. I've been to Springfield. I have not yet been to Lawrence, but that is definitely on the books. And I will be visiting California in March to be able to meet with staff and faculty there just to see how things are going and see what can be improved and what's going well. The main goal is really to speak with staff and administrators so that they can disseminate information to professors and students. I think that's really important, kind of having people on the ground who are familiar with the students being able to provide this information works a lot better than me coming in as a relatively new face, kind of a stranger, and just throwing information at students doesn't really give a whole lot of weight to some of the information. So I think having staff involved in that is really important. That's the end of this first portion of the presentation, and then if you click ahead to the next video, you'll be able to move on to subsequent pieces of the presentation.